What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jack Ramsays Pregame Show. I'm your host, Danny Marang, joined as always by the affable, lovable, beaver believer himself, Brandon Sprague. I'm going to work it in as often as I can just to get you sideways. Yeah, you shouldn't have told me this story. You shouldn't have told me the story. It's your fault. Yeah, you know, that's how it goes. We're also joined by Rick Camp of 670 The Score Chicago to preview the Bulls. They're back. They're back. The 10-4 Chicago Bulls, obviously making a West Coast swing, came through and just bludgeoned the Lakers to death. So much so that Anthony Davis didn't go to the post-game media press conference. Good times, good times. Rick, thank you for joining us, man. The CDC, that's what I'm calling it.
He also tapped out in the third quarter. He got his second tech and it was deuces. He was gone.
Yeah, Rick, I said this the other day because we did a slight preview on the post game, and I said this, my childhood was filled with Jordan, and I largely rooted against the Bulls because I just got tired of watching them run the dynasty, but it was always the Bulls. And so I got so sick of hearing people the last 5-6 years of it's got to be the Knicks. We need the Knicks. The NBA needs the Knicks. And I'm sitting here I want the Bulls to be good again. And now they're finally here. Mm-hmm. What have you made, man? There was a lot of talk about what this team could be, a lot of good pickups, but we didn't know how they would gel. What have you made about the Bulls being back and what we've actually seen?
I mean, I was more of a skeptic on at least the DeRozan move. I was here for the Caruso move. I was here for the Lonzo Ball move, but it was everything involved in the DeRozan move. And Bulls Twitter is liking to forget, how much they're paying DeRozan and what they had to give up to get DeRozan in the sign-in trade. So that's a whole different thing. But for the moment of just putting the blinders on and focusing on what this year is, I mean, really, it's all the defense that has been shocking, because the seemed like the main thought process was the Bulls could maybe be a better part of the play-in team in the East. And maybe if one of those top 6 teams that were kind of consensus before the season dropped down, they could be in a position to move up. And that was thinking they'd be a back half of the top of 10 offense and a between 15 to 22 defense, something like that. The Bulls right now have the 4th best net rating, according to Cleaning the Glass, 4th best net rating, 7th best offense, 5th best defense. The defense has been awesome. Jackson Frank just wrote up a really good piece about the Bulls defense that I recommend everybody take a look at, and how essentially they're kind of running defense opposite of everybody else, where your great defenses right now are mostly based on your rim protectors because it's the most stable thing you can have, where the Bulls are running it with 2 elite point of attack defenders. When you're having Lonzo Ball and you're having Alex Caruso be able to do what they do, they make Nikola Vucevic's job much easier, or when he's hurt, Tony Bradley, or maybe when they're playing small and they have Derek Jones Jr. playing center. That's how small the Bulls have been playing at times. And that has really, really fueled their offense. The Bulls are really good in terms of not turning the ball over, but also forcing the other team into turnovers. They're top 6 in terms of turnover rate on both sides of the ball. And they're the best transition team in the NBA right now in terms of efficiency. And they've been better about running more. So they're getting more of those opportunities to help prop up a, kind of average middling half court offense.
Well, Danny, I'd like to apologize quickly before you jump in. Rick, when you were away from the camera, I was like, Danny, he's a radio guy. I don't know if he's super into analytics or if he's just going off field. So you answered it right there.
So it's perfect because you hit on a lot of things that I want to hit on. First of all, number one, the Bulls are back. Shout out Sean Hyken. We're carrying that one through. Friend of the show, friend of the pod, friend of all of us here.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Hyken worked for a couple years in Chicago covering the Bulls for multiple outlets. So the thing about this Bulls team, and you kind of alluded to, offensively, everybody kind of expected them to be good. LaVine has taken that step. He is now elevated into that quite literal Olympic step. That's what he is. He is that guy now. I don't think, and I am a diehard DeMar DeRozan guy. I'm a USC ride or die. So I have a love for him that probably goes beyond unless you're a diehard Raptors guy, I don't think you really appreciate DeMar the way that I do in that sense. And then he took what I thought was pretty good years in San Antonio and was like, hey, I'm 32. I'm going to go have a career year. Mm-hmm. And both him and LaVine are averaging 25, 5, and 5 on nearly 50, 40, 90 splits. Mm-hmm. You've got one guy at 47, the other guy at 46. They're both around 38% from three. They're both nearly 90% from the free throw line. And they're both absolute nightmares for defenses and how they go about things because they're attacking and murdering teams in the spots that teams want to give up, which is that mid-range, mid-post, isolation area that all the analytics wants to take and throw away. And that actually reminds me. It's a perfect plug. And I told Seth that I would give him this one. If you haven't already, folks, there you go. Whoop. Mm-hmm. There it is. Mid-range theory. Seth Partnow, friend of the show. We'll have him on later. Kind of talks a little bit about how defenses go about targeting teams in the NBA. And the Bulls have taken kind of a market inefficiency and exploited it. And I think that's a good way to go about it offensively because they're taking and making the least amount of corner threes in the NBA. They may have fluctuated with Houston over the last couple nights, but they're only taking about 6 corner threes a game, which when you look at the top end, it's 13, 14 a game. So that's a 100% plus increase. I'm really interested in this game tonight because of what you talked about, though, the defense. Alex Caruso's maybe one of the top 3-point of attack defenders in the NBA right now. He has been a phenomenal signing. I love that the cheap-ass Lakers are getting screwed endlessly for this, especially after signing this monster deal with a stupid crypto company for God knows how long, and they're asking him to take half of what he got from the Chicago Bulls, who notoriously have been a cheap franchise over the last decade. But they get him. They get Lonzo Ball. They get, obviously, Vooch in the trade last year. They get DeMar in the offseason. When you're looking at everything that has happened, as you talked about, the offense was expected, the defense not so much. But when you look at how this team is coming together, is this going to last? Is this a team built to last, not just right now and through this season, but is this something that's going to go on for this season and even into the next?
I think that's the huge question. And I even wonder about, the rest of the season. You mentioned the Bulls, really they are taking the most shots in the mid-range of anybody. And they're taking the second fewest amount of threes in general. I believe they're like 28th right now in corner 3-point rate, 29th in non-corner threes. But the thing is, they're not shooting the long mid-rangers well. They were down in like the low 20s before. Now they're up to like 22nd, I believe. I checked before we started. So you could look at it both ways of maybe just for sustainability's sake, they don't need to be like way out of whack the other way, but just maybe a little more balance where you're not tops and taking mid-rangers and way at the bottom taking threes, because they're actually shooting threes at the 4th best rate in the entire NBA. Part of that's probably because of the small sample size and they're only taking the primo attempts, but they could really use a little bit of balancing so that way they give themselves more wiggle room when they're having bad days offensively. Maybe they're turning the ball over a little bit more so they don't have as many possessions, because that's one thing that they've been doing is with the turnover rate that I mentioned before, they've been able to have 5, 6 extra field goal attempts a game. So when you're not being as efficient per possession, you have those few more possessions to be able to kind of make up some of that difference. But I think for the sake of this year, I think it's sustainable for the regular season, because I mean, this stretch that they're in right now is probably the toughest stretch they have all year. They had kind of a 4-game, well, really, I guess looking back on it, maybe a 3-game extended preseason where it was 2 games against the Pistons without Cade Cunningham and a game against the Pelicans with no Zion. So you have that. Then you had a game against the Raptors and they didn't have Pascal Siakam. And now they're in the middle of a 13-game stretch of all teams that made the playoffs last year, with the exception of the Warriors. So I think we can count them as
last I
good.
Checked, pretty good team.
And the Bulls are 10 games into that stretch. They're 6-4. And the only games that they've lost are 2 to Philly, who is a bad matchup, the Knicks, who are not a great matchup, like bigger teams that can bully. Those are going to be an issue for the Bulls. And then the Warriors. And the Warriors, it was just a buzzsaw, that game, where it's just kind of one of those first game going out west. and the Warriors are damn good.
Yeah.
So I would love if, Draymond Green could start getting more credit for their defense being tops in the league, and maybe my 33-1 defensive player of the year future would look better. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But yeah, so like that's a thing with the Bulls. I think they can be sustainable for this year, but they mortgaged a lot to be able to win right now, this year and next year. And then you've got multiple picks, first round picks already out the door. Who knows what happens with this dumb tampering investigation that the league is happening. It's funny how this Chris Haynes story came out and like basically admits on the record, if you look at the timeline, that the Lakers were talking with DeRozan well before the legal tampering period, but you're not going to hear anything about that. So why not I'm not even saying punish the Lakers. I'm just saying forget all of it because it's dumb and tampering happens anyway. Oh,
tampering absolutely exists. I think the league feels sorry because the Lakers are broke. So I think that's kind of where you're going with that one, whereas the Bulls get away with it. Kind of a two-parter for you. No Gucci Vucci tonight. He's out obviously with the COVID stuff. You guys really kind of remind me. I'm going through the roster and I've seen a few of your games. It really reminds me of Portland in a way. Like if they didn't have Nurk, the size situation would be very similar to what Chicago's dealing with right now. Tony Bradley's your tallest player at 6'10". How have they looked? I know it's only been a few games, but how do you feel with them without Vucevic? I know he'll be back soon. And then what have you noticed just in the impact that Lonzo has had? Because that's a dude that kind of a slow start to the career, kind of maligned, people just going at him a little bit, kind of got it going in New Orleans, and he has had a hell of an impact. What have you noticed with what Lonzo has brought to this team?
In terms of the height, the thing that they have to work with Tony Bradley, the man cannot catch the ball. Like it's almost impressive. One area where they're really missing Vooch is teams are starting to get more aggressive when DeRozan and LaVine have the ball in terms of doubling or blitzing. And at that point, your big is getting the ball in the short roll. And so Vooch has been pretty good at getting that ball out to either Lonzo on one of those wings, and Lonzo can make the decision to either put it up or get it to one of the guys in the corner, or, to just go at it if it's one-on-one himself and be able to make a move. Because in that area, when you get into smaller spaces, Vooch is pretty good offensively, even if he's had a slow start. So Tony Bradley, not as good of a decision maker and not being able to catch the ball. I kind of hope that the Bulls maybe make an adjustment and don't have the center necessarily be setting some of those screens and use someone that can make better decisions in that spot, and just kind of change that around, change the geometry around a little bit. Cause obviously Tony Bradley's not going to stretch out for you, but they do something similar when Derek Jones is in the 5. Now with Lonzo has been the perfect fit. Like he's still got his limitations in the half court. He's not a traditional point guard. Like for as wrong as Stan Van Gundy was about a lot of things in New Orleans, saying that Lonzo is a point guard in transition and a 3-and-D guy in the half court is 100% right. He's that guy where when you're running your primary action and you need to have a guy on the wing on the weak side, so that if the ball handler is walled off or the roll guy is walled off, they need someone to be able to make a good decision and maybe be a reliable shooter. That's the role Lonzo's played. He's been really good at that, and he has been absolutely dynamic, as has been expected of him when he's in transition. Like everybody saw that 360 dunk that LaVine had. And if you say, hey, someone had a 360 dunk in a game and not many people cared because of how awesome the pass was. I mean, Lonzo could have very easily decapitated Dwight Powell on that play, but he just found that perfect spot right over Powell's shoulder to where he's been the one pushing the pace. Billy Donovan has been saying, push as much as possible, because as I mentioned before, the Bulls have been the best efficiency team offensively in transition this season. For a lot of the beginning of the season, they were below, like middle of the pack, like 17th, 18th, something like that. They've worked their way up to 10th in terms of amount of possessions in transition, and that efficiency has stayed. That's what's helped their offense get into the top 10 when it was kind of in like around the 12, 13 area before. And then defensively, boy, his off-ball stuff has always been good. I love guys that have the vision offensively, but also can use that vision defensively as well. That's awesome. But it shows how little he cared when he was in New Orleans last year, because last year between him and Bledsoe, I targeted scoring guards against the Pelicans all year long, and it made me a ton of money because they just didn't really care as much when they were on ball. But his on ball has been fantastic this year between him and Caruso. I mean, good luck with separating guys when you're in screen roll. So like, that's something I'm really fascinated to see what the matchup tonight is with Caruso starting because of all the trickle down with the injuries to the big guys. Like, how are they going to defend Dame and CJ? And then like who's going to be on who? And then what are the priorities going to be and how they play their defense? It's going to be really interesting.
So something that Portland has kind of struggled with recently has been trying to get their bigs involved. Nurk's volume has been down, even though his efficiency has been up, and that's led to some interesting off-the-court stuff from him on social media. Let's just leave it at that. One of the things that typically I would like to see in this matchup with Vooch healthy is that Nurk typically tends to play better against bigger guys where he can kind of bang around. And those two guys have had some really good games together, just going at each other. It's a bit of a Balkan war, and I kind of like watching those guys because they kind of play a little bit similar, while not entirely the same. It's pretty close to each other as far as size and how they look to operate. But what has bothered him is going up against longer, leaner, more athletic, quicker guys. How much do you think the Bulls are just going to go, screw it. We're bigger everywhere else. Let's just play a little bit smaller. Let's play downsize. Let's get some Derek Jones Jr. at the 5 minutes. If Williams was healthy, you'd probably get some Williams minutes at the 5. How much do you think the Bulls are going to kind of lean towards that direction of putting the gas pedal down and playing smaller as opposed to trying to play up a little bit bigger at every other spot?
Are you predicting a Derek Jones Jr. revenge game?
Listen,
oh, no.
I'm not predicting a revenge game. Not predicting a revenge game, but I'm predicting he's going to have a little bit of something.
I think they are. They're going to play it more straight to start. They're going to have Tony Bradley out there. He'll turn the ball over a couple times. Nurk might get a steal or two just because Bradley can't catch the ball. But defensively, like you think about Tony Bradley's kind of NBA upbringing, like coming up in that Utah system, he's pretty competent defensively. He's not great, but like when you consider he's supposed to be a backup center, he's serviceable for a backup center in that role. A little bit of rim protection, but it'll be interesting to see how aggressive Portland is in going to him. And I would love to see what the rotations are going to be like when the Bulls go small and how much overlap is there when the Bulls want to have either if it's Alize Johnson at center, which I'd probably not recommend that very much, or Derek Jones at center. Is Nurk going to be out there? And then when he is Portland going to be disciplined enough to feed him the ball and not have enough, of those my turn possessions?
Sprague and I are both on the same page. Like, don't see that happening.
No. Are you telling that like Anthony Simons needs his shots? What?
Yes, we would rather him shoot.
Yeah,
those shots.
would. Let's be honest. We want the guy who's one of the best pure shooters in the league getting more shots up. That's something we'd like to see.
Rick, I think I'm going to write a letter to Tony and talk about how you're trashing his hands right now because it's quite disrespectful, but you get to watch this guy, so I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah.
We love to play this game when we get guests on from other cities. How do you view the Blazers from Chicago? I know you're super into the Bulls, you're following the Eastern Conference stuff, but like if you catch the Blazers or you read something about Dame or whatever, how does Rick Camp view the Portland Trail Blazers all the way in Chicago?
It's probably not the most unique take here, but like it just seems like it's all stale at this point. That it's like it's not bad. Like you look at the roster a lot of times and you're like, this team should be better. Like this team seems like it should be better. And whether it's now you have at least the coach variable in there, whether that's a positive or a negative, it at least introduces more variance. Which is probably something they need with the personnel staying pretty stagnant outside of Covington, who, Covington hasn't quite been exactly, from the little bit that I've seen exactly what I was hoping.
No, okay. He hasn't been good this year. He's had like 3 games where he has knocked down shots, but defensively he has not been the Robert Covington of old. And in fact, if this game goes sideways, you will likely see him removed from the starting lineup going into the next game.
Okay. Because at least for me, like looking at it from the outside, I always thought of him as like he's weak side rim protector guy, not necessarily on ball defender guy, but judging by a lot of the personnel the Blazers have, he kind of has to fill the other role sometimes too, and it takes him out of what he does best.
Yeah, no, that's a big situation that Portland is dealing with right now is that they want to try to play Chauncey's style, which is borrowing from Ty Lue, which is a more aggressive, big-bodied wing. Let's push things out, be more aggressive. Well, that puts 2 of the best or worst point of attack defenders in the NBA and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum further out and puts Yusuf Nurkic on an island further out, which makes Robert Covington want to retreat and help to the paint, which leads into corner threes. And that's why I think this is going to be a really interesting opportunity for Portland. Is stylistically, that's not what the Bulls want to do. They don't want to drive and kick. They don't have many guys that can even get into the lane. Like it's DeRozan and LaVine, but everybody knows DeRozan is just cool with getting walled off at about 8 feet and then doing that reverse pivot fadeaway. And he's good with that. And then LaVine will just say, screw you, and either get to the rim or he'll kick it out a little bit. Like one thing that's a little bit of a side note that maybe slightly off topic is that the Bulls have 5 guys that are averaging at least 3.8 assists a game. I was literally just looking at that. I was like, there's like 5 guys that are averaging of like 4
Yeah,
assists.
like they're really egalitarian when it, they really share the ball well. They may have like only a couple guys that'll truly initiate the offense, but like really the biggest thing, and it kind of gets back to the question before about sustainability, is all about effort with them. What kind of effort are you going to get? Because to play this style of defense they have been, you need that type of effort all the time, considering the personnel that they have. So can that be done more often than not? You know, like getting towards the end of this trip, either I feel like there's just kind of the Bulls have a dud in them, either whether it's tonight or in Denver. Maybe it's just like Denver kind of sets up perfectly because last game of a road trip at altitude. Yeah. Like, Jokic is going to say, I don't care who's out there, screw you. And like, just bully whoever it is in the post. So I could see that being a thing, but yeah, the Bulls are not really a drive and kick team. Lonzo tries to do it, but teams are like, go ahead. You're not going to get to the basket. And then even if you get to the basket, you're not going to shoot well there.
Yeah, I saw some interesting numbers just because we like to make picks and gamble at the end of this pod. And usually we've been betting the overs. I saw some interesting numbers and also the 4th game of the trip. Maybe the under's the play. I know Danny's going to bet the over, but
100%. I already did.
the under might be the play. Also, Danny's like LA theory of they were in LA too long. What's that?
Did they had the extra day? Did they stay in Los Angeles?
I don't know. Or I'm not sure of that.
If they came to Portland, they didn't do anything but play video games or something in their hotel room.
If they came here early, they went to Nike and they chilled. Yes, they'll be rested. But if they stayed in LA, they're exhausted.
Well, and considering how many like LA dudes are on that team, like it's funny with playing the Lakers, all the Chicago guys were on the Lakers. All the LA guys are on the Bulls because like 4 of the Bulls 5 starters, when they have everybody healthy, 2 USC guys and 2 UCLA guys. So it's kind of an odd dynamic.
And AD, I believe, is a Packers fan, which is just making the whole thing bonkers.
That's not great.
You just got to go, we don't acknowledge that here.
I kind of a quick, broad organizational question here. Not really so much with this game. The Bulls went through it for quite a while. Like they had that run with D-Rose, and then they got out of that, and it's been suck. Hey, we're here. I don't know where Portland's going. It's not apples to apples here, but Portland is going through an organizational problem right now, right? The owner we've never heard her talk one time. She refuses to just say, hey, this GM sucks. He's kind of a crappy person. Here's 20 million, piss off. She's worth billions of dollars.
Right.
The coaching situation and all that came with the Chauncey background stuff. Like we have Dame. He seems committed right now. But can you tell people who are tuning in, just that are Blazers fans, how fast an organization can go from being, hey, it's the Bulls to, oh, it's the Bulls. Like I feel like there's a part of that in Portland that might be lingering. I could be wrong, but it feels like that's kind of lingering in the background. And it feels like the Bulls are kind of getting out of what they were in.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. After the Derek years with Joakim and Taj Gibson, basically the guys that are on the Knicks or have been on the Knicks, at some point with Tibbs. When it's been that type of thing, it was rough. Like, because it was still the same front office that had lucked into Derrick Rose and had made some decent picks around that. Like when it was
Garpax for everybody who's not sure.
Gar Forman, John Paxson, known as Garpax. I won't say affectionately because it wasn't. They went from out of that era to build around Jimmy Butler, which, hey, at the time made sense. But then the edict was at the end of the season, we want to get younger and more athletic. Younger and more athletic turned into Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo, also known as the 3 Alphas era. So, and that was a disaster. And it was just, they lacked any sort of direction. And it was that way when they traded Jimmy And it was, well, here's our direction. We're going to rebuild, but we don't really know how to rebuild. And we have a really small scouting department. So if we're going to base everything off the draft, it's going to be Gar Forman flying everywhere because the Bulls had like when the new organization or front office came in that they have there's like overhaul the entire team. Arturas Karnisovas, who came from Denver, Mark Eversley, who came from Philly and Toronto before that. Like those guys had to not just, okay, here, let's get our people in here. Okay, let's build out departments. The Bulls player development, entire department, when they got here was Sean Respert and Sean Respert. That was it. It was one dude for the entire team. So like all the assistant coaches had to divvy up some of the guys, which I know was like, fairly common, but like to the degree they had to was insane. But now the fact that clearly this organization, this front office came in and said, we want professional guys. We want, which is like, it seems kind of nebulous and whatever,
but it does matter.
Like, it does matter. And you look at the guys that are on this team, like they're all guys that are willing to do what's best to just get wins right now. And to their credit, it's working. At least, at the moment. So you've got that. You've got guys that are smart players on both ends, even if they're not the best athletes. They've got a good balance of insane athletes and really smart guys. So, and now mind you, they, like I mentioned before, they've given up picks. They've gotten a lot older. So like, that's a whole thing that we're all trying to balance here. And most people are just going woo Bulls. But like I hosted last night on The Score for a few hours and I was like, give me one segment to play Debbie Downer here for a minute.
Oh no.
And so, I mean,
you're playing my music, baby.
That's
right.
Are you Danny? Are you Danny Midwest? Is that what you're telling me?
No. Dude, I had a 3-hour show on 4 hours notice, by the way, yesterday. I had no notice that I was hosting.
Yeah.
So I did 2 hours with no guests on just the Bulls. And I took one segment to be negative on like, here's the future stuff. Like, woo Bulls, enjoy it right now. Everybody deserves it, but like, let's cool the Jets on like winning a title or like Jokic coming when his contract is up because of Arturas. Like, let's cool the Jets on that maybe for a second, because that's already happening here, by the way. But the point is, as I ramble, is that like when you have this type of change in the front office and you see such a stark contrast and how in such a short amount of time Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, or if you want to just go Acme to make it close, cool, to make it shorter, do that. That's the new version and much more pleasurable version of Garpax. The fact that they had a vision and they were able to turn over this roster as quickly as they did. There are only 2 players left from when they took over, Zach LaVine and Kobe White. So the fact they've been able to do that, the Bulls, even if they don't have the highest ceiling, they have that ability now. And it makes all the difference in the world for, if nothing else, trusting when they have to pivot when Vooch is a free agent and DeMar's in the last year of his deal at age 34 and that type of thing. You trust their evaluation process moving forward. And if nothing else, it makes you feel like the Bulls have more hope.
It's nice to be able to care again. Like that.
Yes.
I think that's the thing. And I think it's a different framing, but I think the Blazers are kind of in that same space because the same pillars have been there consistently. I think the stagnancy of whether it's good stagnancy or in the Bulls case, bad stagnancy, it was like, okay, a real change at the top, at the core of this roster needs to take place. And obviously in Portland, it hasn't yet. One of the other things we like to do here, Rick, is a little segment called Love It, Like It, Leave It, where tonight's game, what would you love to see for the Bulls to pull out a victory?
I would love to see the pressure on Dame and CJ and Simons, like basically who are on the ball handler, whoever is initiating the offense, make them uncomfortable.
I don't like that.
I mean, for the Bulls, it's pretty good though.
Rick, you see the picture in the background to his left or to our left from him? That's Anthony Simons. That's a drawing of Anthony Simons. He is a truther of Simons. It's
funny because like I've only been to, because the draft combines in Chicago every year. So I went to that draft and I remember standing there with Simons, like because he was off in one of the corners and I was
very
like,
quiet, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was like my first time there. So I'm just basically trying to not get in guys' way. And I remember at the time, a lot of Orlando people were thinking he was going to end up with the Magic, also just the IMG connection and whatever. Yeah. But like, I thought that was pretty interesting. Just like seeing him, it was like a guy that I took note of like, I want to track this guy because I think he he's just interesting,
Mm-hmm.
like interesting as a prospect. So the fact that it's kind of taken him this long to like at least become like really, really productive and someone you can truly rely on, it makes sense because of how young he was coming in. And that's something we all forget sometimes, you know, myself included.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, when you're Portland and you're also trying to win, when you're trying to win right now, and you're also putting that guy in a critical role as a backup point guard at times, or just like in that guard rotation, that's also on the front office for, are you giving that guy too much too soon?
Yeah.
Brandon, what flip side, which way you want to go on Love It?
I'll go with the Love It. I'll start with the Love It too. It's pretty simple for me. Like that lineup for Chicago, even without Vucevic, it's going to be really tough. I'm going with the bench. I love the bench advantage Portland, I think, has tonight. I think Nas, Ant, Larry, building off of what he did in the last game, and Cody likes to do all kind of the gritty stuff. I think the bench has to play really well. Yet again, like they've done every time the Blazers win, it's the bench kind of saving them. I'm going with I love the bench tonight. I think they got a big advantage.
My love tonight, I'm gonna take the big man, and not the big man we're talking about, Yusuf Nurkic, but Damian Lillard. Listen, I don't know if you've looked into this much, Rick, but DeMar DeRozan is CJ McCollum's father. Like it is one of the biggest.
CJ's gonna find this and slander.
I've said it more times than I can count. He's probably heard me say it. DeRozan has punked CJ his entire career. Like Damian Lillard's arch nemesis was Chris Paul for a decade. It just haunted him. DeRozan is averaging 35-5, shooting nearly 50, 40, 90. I mean, he has just annihilated CJ in this matchup. Where Dame plays incredibly strong on the post against post-up type guards, CJ gets taken into that mid-block and just absolutely abused. That has been where he has been cooked, and where does DDR love to just absolutely kill from? That mid-block, like you said, that over-the-shoulder turn and fade. He's got the Kobe-esque footwork. So I'm going to stay the hell away from anything on CJ, and I'm going strong on Damian Lillard, because as good as Caruso is, and he's a fantastic point-of-attack defender, I think Dame's going to take this challenge, even with the sideways abs and struggling this season. I think he's going to take that challenge and build on the last victory over the Raptors. What would you like to see tonight, Rick? What is the thing, the little underling of the Bulls tonight where you're going, I'd like to see that?
One quick point on Dame as well. The Bulls really haven't faced much in terms of the dynamic scoring point guards yet that really thrive in high pick and roll. So that'll be something that'll be interesting to see how they defend it, how they're able to do. So just a side note there, that's just something they haven't really seen this year for whatever reason. But what I'd like to see is something that I mentioned before, is a little more balance, and it's happening just slightly bit by bit, a little more balance in terms of 3-pointers versus long twos for the Bulls. Now, maybe just by the nature of Portland playing so much drop. Yeah, it's like now maybe DeRozan gets collapsed on a little bit and he's able to kick out to someone for a corner three, something like that. That would be nice to see. Just that's a little thing offensively, a pet peeve of mine that I would love to see, is the Bulls not necessarily make a true conscious effort, but through the flow of their offense, be able to hit more threes, because anytime they have been even really close to even in terms of 3-pointers made, they've dominated whatever games those have been. So it's almost like, if you could just balance out the long twos versus threes just a little bit more, it could make a world of difference.
Brandon, which way are you going for your like it tonight?
I like it's pretty simple. Former Oregonian and current Chicago Bull Mark Eversley gets to watch the team he may take over. I like that. I like that he may see some moves that he can make.
Listen, I'm all for that. I've heard nothing but great things from folks behind the scenes about Eversley. So if the Trailblazers make a move, I hope they buy out Eversley and bring him out here. My like it tonight, I'm going to go Norman Powell, because I feel like Powell's going to be the guy who's going to have to take on DDR. Like you said, that they are sliding up a little bit. Caruso at the 1, Zach at the 2, and more DeMar 3, which honestly, I think DeMar's better offensively in that position right now, because he's still probably a step quicker than a lot of the big-bodied wings, where sometimes you may slide that 4 down, with like trying to be strong with him, but he's still got that one step. He's still got a little bit of that Kobe footwork package out on the perimeter, where he can get by guys and get to the rim still.
The defense sucks, though.
It does. When it gets to the other side.
They can exploit DeRozan defensively. Like, that's one thing. He is, for all the pluses, he is not a good defender still.
He tries. He does try, and he does offer
Most
some
of the time,
resistance.
yeah.
He does offer some resistance just because he's big and strong. So Norm is a downhill guy, and that's where I'm looking for him to take advantage of that. You'll leave it. What is the one thing you're saying, please God, Bulls, don't do this tonight?
Foul trouble. Like it ties in because the Bulls have no depth in the front court. Like they were thin in the front court when everybody was healthy. Now with no Patrick Williams, with Vooch in the health and safety protocols, they just have no depth. And considering they haven't really faced too many teams that are just trying to get to the rim at will, like the teams that have really tried to do that to them so far have had some success against them. Like when you have Philly, when it is the Knicks, those are teams that have been able to do that to the Bulls a little bit. So I think some of it's been due to matchups that they've been able to hold serve at the rim, but I could see maybe guys getting a little too reachy and, getting in foul trouble. Caruso's been touch and go with it. LaVine as well. I give Billy Donovan credit. He's a little more aggressive in terms of leaving guys out there. So it's not 2 fouls and pull a guy immediately. If it's like 3 fouls and we're early in the second, sure, a guy's going to get pulled at that point. But LaVine and Caruso have both had foul issues that Donovan's basically said, hey, I trust you. But don't misuse my trust. And they've been okay at preserving that. So yeah, foul trouble with the Bulls, like giving the Blazers easy points is something that I could worry about.
I wanted to add real quick, my like it, Eversley, just the joke that was actually going to be my like it, because it goes to my point of my love it. I love that the Blazers have the depth advantage here. If you could get any one of those 3 studs in foul trouble, I think Chicago is going to be in a world of problems. My leave, it's pretty simple. It's going to go off of something you mentioned there, Danny. I'm going to leave CJ McCollum. Can you please leave this in the past? Dame hasn't necessarily exercised the Chris Paul demons, but he's had a few good games against him the last couple. CJ just needs that, right? He's riding the high of what he just did. He was really good in that last game.
Fantastic.
He had a killer block on Scotty Barnes. Don't get cooked. Show up. Take this personal and go be the CJ that good CJ is. It's one of the more deadly guards that you have in this league.
My leave it tonight is to. I'm actually, before I get into that, I've seen a couple people in the chat asking or wondering about tonight's game. Both Damian Lillard and Norman Powell are both good. They're both a go guys. So
Chauncey said they should be good.
Yeah, so those guys are good to go. And for the Bulls, real quick, there was one other injury announcement. Alex Caruso is now available, and that just came out, as well as Javonte Green. So everybody that was listed as questionable, I think, is now a go for the Bulls as well. So, but my leave it tonight is. It is leave the fact that you are a dumpster fire defensively defending the 3-point line. This is a team that should not be getting corner threes. It's not what they want to do. Do not let them all of a sudden become a team who gets them.
What did we talk about with Denver and Toronto, though?
That's exactly my point. Teams that are not great 3-point shooting teams getting great looks and feasting. Man. Because there has been no clearer indicator. There's 2 things that have absolutely unequivocally destroyed this Portland team: being awful in transition and giving up corner threes. When they do those in concert, they are done. They are cooked. They do not have the size. They do not have the ability to get the free cheap points, and they have not shot well enough from 3 to compensate for those. Granted, the Toronto game has been the exception because Dame and CJ got dumb hot. Now, this Trailblazers team is built on those 2 guys as the pillars. But one game does not a season make. They have not been those guys so far this season. So if you start trying to hang your hat on that too early, it can get a little bit sideways. We'll get you out of here on this, Rick. Brandon, do you have the local apps?
Yes.
Because I already made my actual bets, and so mine have disappeared because they only let you play single game.
Yeah, we can't parlay the same games on our local thing because we only get one local option out here.
Right?
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, I know.
It's really bad.
You would think they would take it because I just heard New Jersey's bet numbers. $600 billion. Excuse me, $600 million profit already this year since they became legal in New Jersey. 55% of the take has been on parlays.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, okay, so one of them that's available here in Illinois is Bet Rivers. And like the commercial makes no sense. It's like someone goes up to Jerome Bettis and is like, hey, what should I take against the spread? And he ignores the guy. And then someone's like, what should I do on the total of the game? And he's like, well, you could do a same game parlay. And it's like, you didn't answer the question. You just told him to make a parlay. So like, I get it. And like,
give me the parlay.
Right. Like parlays are fun. Like as I've gotten more and more into betting, especially the volume that I've done in the NBA, where, like I'm writing at 4 for 4. doing some NBA betting over there. But like I've had a couple fun wins, like in the bubble. What was it? Was it game 4 of the finals when Anthony Davis hit a 3 at the top of the arc to like seal the game with like 45 seconds left? That sealed a like 130-1 parlay, same game parlay for me. So like that was
loving that.
That was that was
talking about love it like and leave it. You're loving that one.
Yeah. So like they're fun to do every once in a while, as long as everybody's like really responsible. Obviously, that's like the big old asterisk is be responsible on your unit size when you're doing. Don't use a full unit on like a crazy ass parlay.
Yeah.
Like keep it under control a little bit, but no, yeah, it's like it's still a ton of fun. Like I've already got 2 futures that I'm sweating that have a really good chance that mind you, I sweat a lot anyway, but like, I mentioned the Draymond 33-1 defensive player of the year.
That's looking good.
That's looking pretty spicy.
Oh my God.
And I had a Miles Bridges preseason Bridges 100-1 most improved player.
Ooh.
So
man, okay, so Rick, I'll give you the local lines. You can give us
Sure.
your picks with ours, and then you give us maybe one thing that maybe you're eyeing on your end for this game.
Okay.
Right now, the local line here,
Mhm.
it opened at Blazers 1.5. It's up to Blazers 3.5. And the over under
the Bulls.
and the over under is 221.
Oh baby, who got in at 215?
Yeah. Man, I missed some big time CLV today on some of these games when I was doing my prep like late last night.
Yeah.
I'm so mad at myself for not pulling the trigger earlier, but on the side, it's basically saying, will the Bulls keep it within a possession?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a close game either way. So I would probably take the points. I'm still not like totally convinced the Bulls are going to win.
Yeah.
But like, I do lean that way. I mean, I would stay away from the total at that number. Like the 215. Yeah. You take that over, but like, that's a huge move. So
It's not, though. 230 is the line when I start sweating Portland over.
So
they give it up, man.
Yeah, they do.
I got to see if I have do I have my sheet with all my prep stuff here? Of course I don't I think I threw it away because I knew I was going to glance at it all night. But the Bulls totals in their games, at least, have not been as high as you would think. They're getting a little higher in pace, but with the defense being good and the fact that just because they're getting in transition, one thing I'm impressed that they don't let the opponent in transition. The Bulls are 10th in terms of frequency of getting in transition themselves. They're 3rd in not allowing the opponent to get into transition, which I think is important because their transition defense is kind of average, but they're really good when they get in transition themselves. So I think that's one thing that's really helped is
that's allowed.
Yeah, they've gotten in it is allowed. I mean, mind you, previous Bulls teams, I didn't know that was allowed, but now I know.
Yeah.
Now I know that it is allowed and it actually does help you.
So the Trailblazers as a team are very good at generating transition opportunities off steals, decent on live rebounds. So shout out Ben Falk cleaning the glass for giving us all of the great data. It's such a fantastic,
amazing.
Resource. But they're one of the worst in converting them. Their transition opportunities on live steals, I believe they were 28th the last I looked. So that the whole 6'3" guard thing becomes problematic. But as it relates to this game, as good as defenses have been that the Blazers have played, because they, with the exception of the Nuggets, have still managed to put up points when they just get looks because they have a bunch of guys who can shoot. And even when Damian Lillard has had his worst year since his rookie year, they're still putting up a truckload of points. So when it comes to this team and playing against defenses, it's never the offense. The offense is not something I question going into a given night. So I've set the line, and Brandon and I have joked about this, at 230. That's when I start going, should I? Anything under 230, you just smash the over because you just start looking at it. Because even in games where they get absolutely boat raced like they did against the Nuggets, they still covered, 219.
Yeah.
Okay.
They scored 94 points, and they still hit 219 because their defense is so bad that the Nuggets, got 125. So you look at it and you're like, yeah, okay. So what was the line on tonight, Brandon? It moved to
it's Portland 3.5 locally.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not touching. I have another rule. I don't touch Portland spreads right now. Because
what would you if you were though? Like, what would you pick?
I think I'm going to take Chicago. I think that the big bodied guards thing is just I think Chicago takes that with no problem.
I said on the last pod, Chicago's going to win this game, and now I'm like, the LA thing's playing in my mind. This is
that is the one thing that makes me worry, because if they did stay in LA,
that was a big fuck you trip for a lot of those guys. Man.
Yes,
it was like Lakers, here you go, serve it up, there you go.
Clippers, here you go.
Clippers, here you go. Yeah. R.I.P. Staples. I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to play the under here, and I'll tell you why. BetMGM has this at the highest total on their board at 221.5. I think this is the fourth game of that Bulls trip. You could see a kind of maybe they hung out a little too long in LA, a little tired. I'm going to play the under stupidly, and I think I'm going to go Portland with those points. I can't believe I reversed my call.
Every single time you've done this, it has backfired. You know that, right?
I know. I'm trying to keep the momentum here.
When you think about Portland winning, it's Portland and unders, of course.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The 7-8 team with one of the worst pace-adjusted defenses in the league right now. That is exactly what you think. So, locally, are the lines about the same for the Bulls and Blazers tonight?
Yeah, let me double check what it's at now, because I know it's been fluctuating a little bit. The movement that I've been seeing has been going towards Portland in terms of spread. Let's see. I've got multiple options here, so lucky me. But I'm just looking at one. Yeah, I'm seeing 3.5 minus 110 each way, total 221 minus 110 each way. So it looks like that's kind of the consensus at this point.
Yeah.
For that, and it's fascinating.
Is that hook?
Intriguing.
Is it getting you 3.5?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the hook does make it more tempting, but. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a close game either way.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think both teams might be frustrated at the end of this game, because now it's amazing. Bulls fans went from starved to spoiled so quickly that it's going to be like, what do you mean we're not winning by like 15 in this game against a team that's worse than the Warriors? It's like, calm down, man. It's an 82 game season. Like I'm already expecting it. I'm going to take the calls tomorrow because I'm the one that screens the calls. And I'm going to have to tell people to calm down a little bit. And I might have to do that on Bulls post game tonight too. Who knows?
Just for the record, 4 of the last 5 for Portland, the over is hit.
Which means Danny has won his bet 4 of the last 5 nights.
This is correct. But before that,
I did drop 2 out of 3 before that.
Okay.
Yeah. But they were on a struggle bus with the under there.
But I have been riding a bit of a heater, and it's I don't think that's going to calm down. So we'll wrap up and get out of here on this. Rick, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Follow me on Twitter at Rick C. Camp. Pretty much all social media on there. I do most of my work there on Twitter. Bulls post game on 670 The Score. You can listen to that through the Odyssey app, or when you're not local.
Corporate plug, you love it.
Yes, I do love that.
I mean, hey, they gave me an EP position, so if I have to be a shill for a while, I'll dance. I don't care.
Listen, man, this is a pro shill show. Listen,
yes.
There's no shame in that at all.
Danny has already sold out one time this year in a big way.
Yeah,
he had no problem doing it.
I've already shilled out for the local team.
Yeah, we're a little slow starting at 4 for 4 with our NBA coverage this year, but we're about to get started doing that. I'll be doing some writing and video stuff over there. And also, if you're a fan of food, if you're a fan of fat culture, I'm the host of the I'm Fat podcast with my buddy that I used to produce with, Jay Zawoski. We basically go around and we talk about things that are happening at all your major national and regional chains. We talk about local places. We talk about things within fat culture. Like we give out fat hacks all the time. Like we're going to have to do our big Thanksgiving episode this week. We've done Thanksgiving side power rankings in the past. One thing I know that we're going to touch on that I actually did as a segment on my show last night on The Score, and I'll ask you guys, one has to go away forever: barbecue sauce, ranch, hot sauce, or ketchup.
Oh, that's easy. Ketchup.
Oh, that's super easy. It's ranch.
Oh, really?
100% with you on ranch. Get ranch out of my face.
I'm sorry.
Mayo sucks.
Yeah, you can't have French fries without ketchup. I do like a little ketchup on a dog. Mostly mustard, but a little ketchup. I like it on a burger.
How does Chicago not go with ketchup? You guys don't allow ketchup on your hot dogs. That's insane.
I mean, so our podcast philosophy is eat what makes you happy. Now, there are some things that people have sent us that are troubling. And mind you, Jay and I both have some what are considered by most people awful food takes.
Yeah, so I have got this going on too.
So you're
Rick.
Brandon Sprague.
Yes.
I mean, my biggest one that everybody, I get crap for it every time it's brought up either on The Score or on the podcast. I hate peanut butter. It smells awful. And this isn't even me doing like the Stephen A thing and like leaning into it.
know.
I truly hate the smell. The taste is worse. Like
this is like me with waffles.
Waffles.
I hate waffles.
Waffles, and he hates curly fries, Rick. Who hates curly fries?
What the
Yes.
curly fries?
Thank you.
So like Arby's. So you're not having any
Yes!
Arby's. So you're not having any Arby's vodka.
No,
Is you're not
exactly,
doing this?
exactly. I am not having any Arby's vodka. I'm not.
Hey,
having,
can I-
it's just,
Mind you, I will not either. I am not touching
That's
that
gross.
stuff with a 10-foot pole. Also, I get that you just redid your regular like crinkle cut fries. I got you. But who, when they think of fries at Arby's, thinks of anything but the curly fries?
Nobody.
Come on now.
Nobody.
See, I'm not going to Arby's. That's
So
the thing.
it's funny you brought that up. So we talked about Thanksgiving on my radio show today,
Yeah.
and I'm a big mashed potatoes guy. I feel
Yes.
like I make a.
But what
bomb-ass
potatoes don't
mashed
you
potatoes.
like?
Scalloped are effing gross. It's an abomination to the potato
Mm.
family. Get them out of here. Nobody likes them cooked that way. The cheese, it's just, I almost throw up.
Yeah,
every
who
time
wants
I
to
eat
take potatoes and add cheese to them?
it. It's
It just
not
sounds
good.
like a
Give me a baked potato with cheese. Give me mashed potatoes with cheese. Give me French fries with cheese.
I mean, it's not my favorite, but I'm not saying get out of my face with it. My family's, and the thing that's cool is like we found out a bunch of people's like family thing, like the random item that their family is like
sneaks into a casserole.
really good, or either sneaks into a casserole or they're like just their thing. Like my family's random thing is the twice baked potato.
Oh,
We make the best twice baked potatoes, and somehow, whether it's been depending on the year, my mom or one of my aunts, they always find the most ignorantly huge potatoes to be able to use for this too. So it's just the best.
oh, it sounds amazing.
I will say that mine is also the potato, but it's mashed potatoes with cheese and bacon in them.
Yeah. I mean, so one of this is the flex for me. I'll admit, the non-existent collar is getting popped right now. Jay and I on the podcast, we have a bacon guy. We have our own craft bacon guy. Now, mind you, he started out as a listener that is now a sponsor, but whenever he has new bacon flavors, he will basically give us some to test and talk about on the podcast.
Holy
I want to
shit.
test bacon flavors.
Yeah, how do we get into this business?
3 words: apple butter bacon.
Oh, yeah, that sounds amazing.
And the newest one that I can't wait to try, chorizo bacon.
Ooh.
Have you seen that I know it's the same animal, but I saw at the store recently, they flattened pork like sausage, like breakfast sausage,
Mm-hmm.
and they've cut it into bacon strips.
Oh.
Have you guys seen this?
No.
I have not, but I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, what? And then I'm like, I kind of want to try this now.
By the way, I really appreciate you, channeling your inner Chicago with the sausage. We got a sausage out of you. So,
Dude, yes, I
like,
love sausage, man.
But you even like elongated the A and almost made it an AH, like a very Chicago. Like I had for doing this industry, I had to train some stuff out of my vocabulary because my dad was like, south and west side of Chicago. So he's a big sausage guy, like saying that type of thing. So it's been a thing that being in this industry, you have to like train some of the regionalism out.
Rick, I'll make you uncomfortable. If this was a sausage this size, I'd do some nasty things to this size of a sausage. Now, let me ask you this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going against it here. Today we brought up mashed potatoes.
Okay.
Again, I love them. I couldn't believe, not only my co-host, I couldn't believe how many listeners were texting in that mashed potatoes are trash. That they're like, I don't want them at Thanksgiving.
Oregon needs to do better.
Eat them. I was so disappointed in people today. I still haven't gotten over it.
Is it like not bougie enough or something for people out
They're
there?
just
Have they not like overdone it in dumb ways? Like,
I know.
I mean, mild offense meant, towards that, but like, we get it, Portland. You're creative. Cool. Sometimes I just want some regular mashed potatoes, and that's perfectly okay. They're very good. Just because something's traditional doesn't mean it's always trash. Sometimes it means it's trash, but not always. So be creative, try your stuff, but you don't have to mess with too many things. Like I see my guy, Bill Oakley, who former showrunner of The Simpsons, who does stuff with us on the podcast every once in a while. We trade food notes. He lives out in the area and he'll show some foods. And I'm like, what are we doing out here? Like have fun, do your thing, like make yourself happy with food.
But
that's
also
what the podcast is all about. But it's like, sometimes it's like, come on, man.
Well, Rick, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you having you on. We're going to have to bring you back now when the Blazers head back out to Chicago, and we'll have to check in with some food takes. For everybody out there who's still watching here on YouTube, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. We're on our way to 2,000. After a big chunk of you subscribed last night, we're getting very, very close. Sprague and I have had our best month. It's our first month, so of course it's our best. But if you haven't already, please subscribe here on YouTube. Subscribe for the podcast. Wherever podcasts are available, check for Jacked Ramsays. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. Help us grow the community. I will have some membership stuff here for the site going out here over the next week. We will have the live watch parties and everything else that's going to come with that over through December. And Rick, thank you again for joining us, man. You can follow Rick on social media at Rick C. Camp. You can follow Brandon Sprague at Brandon Sprague. And of course, you can follow me at Danny Marang across all social media and at Jacked Ramsays. And for the mailbag pod, if you ever got any questions, send them into jackedramsays@gmail.com. That's it for us, guys. It's been an extended pregame show. And big shout out to Rick, Brandon, everybody else who's there. Thank you all so much. Take care. Enjoy the game. We'll catch you on the postgame. Take care. Bye.